All right, so I've been playing a lot of Dead by Daylight lately, and I wanted to watch this video about why it's so toxic, so let's do it.
Dead by Daylight is a relatively fun game. Well, as long as you ignore the camping, tunneling, teabagging, slugging, smack talking, stream sniping, sore losing, sore winning, death threatening, doxing, and DDoSing. But aside from that,
Yeah, so Dead by Daylight has the most interesting community that I've ever seen, whereas most games, people will find someone to blame, yeah, but in this game, people will go through the most extreme lengths to not blame themselves. I can't tell you how many people are just absolutely trash at this game and run around like they've been playing forever when they're actually 20-hour Andes, and then they leave you a message that just it shows that they believe that you're the problem. That you, the guy who outlasted them, did way more work than them, and I would say has more points than them, but nowadays, with the new system and everybody getting more points from just hanging out around the killer constantly, that's not necessarily true, but they just believe that you're the problem.
pretty fun. Every single gamer has experienced some form of toxicity, but there's just something about DBD in particular that seems to bring the worst out of people. So let's take a look at why that is. At its core,
because they're stupid. Because the people who want to play this game, who want to be traumatized every single day, who want to lose more matches than they win, no matter what, there's something wrong in our brains, and that's why it brings out the toxicity in us. And the game likes it. It's literally a game about serial killers killing people. The devs are glad that the community is a little bit toxic. It brings us all together in this weird way. It keeps the game active. People get in these rage fits and they have to keep playing.
Dead by Daylight is an asymmetrical game. There's one player taking the role of killer facing off against 4 survivor players. The killer's goal is to—
I actually haven't watched any videos about Dead by Daylight because I made a video about Dead by Daylight, and while I was making that video, I made sure not to watch anything about it.
Hook and kill, and the survivor's goal is to, survive, specifically by repairing generators to power up the exit gate. The number one thing that separates Dead by Daylight from other online games is without a doubt, tribalism.
Yes and no. The pre 300-hour experience of Dead by Daylight is my team. I'm a survivor. My team is the best and the killers are evil, or those killers, the killers are the best and the survivors are evil. They're trolling douchebags. But when you play this game for long enough, you realize that your real enemies are your own team members.
Ever since the dawn of man,
you know how many people just click a fucking flashlight on your face? You only click flashlights if you haven't played very much. It becomes so boring. This is what people don't understand about this game, is that I can tell how long you've played based off of your behavior because I can see what things haven't gotten boring to you yet. If you're out there trying to sabotage your teammates, I can tell that you haven't played for a very long time because that gets boring really fast. Really fast. You only do that 2 or 3 times before you realize, oh, this wasn't any fun actually. Let me actually try to be good at this game. And you only do that because you know you're not good enough to work at the game to actually try to escape.
Early humans found safety and comfort in numbers. It was much easier to live together than it was being alone. You get to have each other's back, share food, have company, and a bear is less likely to eat you in your sleep. Flash forward to today, and tribalism still plays a large role in our lives. A big example of this is sports, where there's 2 sides of a game. If you guys know anything about sports, then you know it could get pretty intense. The reason for that type of hostility is a line of thinking called us versus them, Dodgers versus Giants, progressives versus conservatives, pineapple on pizza enjoyers versus normal people, killers versus survivors.
I mean, even in my way of thinking, this is still the thing. It's people who have played for a long time and people who haven't played for a long time is my tribes now. And it's just so brought out in this game because it's so obvious. It's so obvious when somebody is being a douchebag. It's so obvious when they're trying to get you killed. They can pull down pallets in front of you. They can fast vault around you. It's just so apparent. It makes you so angry.
That only play one side take their side to heart and as a part of their identity. An attack on one of them is an attack on all of them, and they will defend their side as if their life depended on it. Don't believe me? Just take a look at my TikTok comments. I feel like I have to put on a hazmat suit every time I do that, but
Survivors are so dumb because they have no idea what's going on with killers at all. The amount of people who just sprint around the map, the amount of people who come off the hook and then sprint to where you are, literally leaving a trail of scratch marks to the survivors, to the people who are doing work, to the people who are trying to finish this match so we don't all die in this arena. Oh my gosh, they just don't even know what it looks like from their screen. People get so mad because they get pulled off generators. Hey buddy, you have no health states left. You are down all of your hangs. Stay off a generator for a little bit. Wait until the killer's on somebody. Have aura reading perks so you can see where they are. Stay away from them. If you're not good at chasing, if you're not amazing at chasing, try to focus on staying hidden and getting objectives done. If you want to learn how to chase, that's one thing, but damn, it is not everyone else's fault that you're playing this game badly, that you don't know what distortion is, that you don't know that they have aura reading perks, that you don't know what barbecue and chili is. That's not my fault. It's not my fault that I quote unquote didn't do anything while the killer was camping you. Most of the time I'll at least run in and trade a hook for them, but people will literally sabotage you, and then when you don't get them off the hook later on, they're angry at you for not doing it. It's like, dude, you made up your mind so early on.
why is it like this? Why do people spend hours arguing with complete strangers online over a game that has a spin-off for horny players? The thing here is that villains aren't often born, they're created. Someone could come into the game and try to be nice and try to have fun, and then they get absolutely steamrolled and BM'd over and over and over again until they just snap and stop being nice. I'm not gonna lie, I'm also guilty of this. I'll go into a tough match and get
I give everybody the chance. I do play killer a decent amount as well. Not as much as I probably should, but I do play killer. And I mean, the truth about playing killer is that if you have a good build and you're above a 90 IQ, you're going to win most likely. And so if there's people who are trying and playing really, really hard and they're beating my brakes off, just absolutely running me, I'm going to let them get out no matter what. I'm not going to slug people and try to use all these crazy tactics unless they've been absolutely just unbelievably rude. But I usually play nice with people no matter what, because I like it when killers do that with me occasionally. Now, not always. I have definitely gotten other survivors killed because they're plot twisting in a corner the entire match doing nothing. And then I make sure the killer knows, hey man, I don't want special treatment for this. Continue playing this match like everything is normal. I just wanted this guy to see that there are consequences to going in and wasting other people's time, because that's what you're doing. If you're going into a match and you're not there to play, you're wasting other people's time, and I think that's the rudest thing you could possibly do.
absolutely outplayed and mocked in endgame chat, to the point that I decide I'm gonna go absolutely sicko mode in this next game and completely obliterate these
Every
innocent
match comes out of
survivors
a
that have
vacuum.
never done
That's
anything
the way you
wrong
have to
me.
play.
It becomes a real issue though when players take that animosity towards the other side and they surround themselves with that same animosity.
Yeah, totally.
A hate bubble, if you will.
There's a
That's
whole
why
group
that
of
type
people
of
doing
content
this
works.
constantly.
These survivors love watching killers get frustrated and bullied until they disconnect. Likewise, those killers love seeing bully squads get camped and abused.
I hate people
It's like a
I hate
fantasy to
people
them.
doing
the
bully
problem
tactics.
here isn't really the videos though.
Play
It's
the
just
game.
how seriously the players take the game, or rather,
Yeah,
how
totally.
seriously they take their side of the game. This is why good survivors often use that division to their advantage. I've come across a lot of these myself. After getting stunned by the best player on their team, they'll teabag and click at me like crazy, but they're not really doing it to be toxic or to rub it in my face. In that specific situation, they're doing it to try to antagonize me so that I chase after
Totally.
them. If I do, and they're as good of a survivor as they think they are, then they'll
It's
have me
over.
right where they want me.
Yep.
Distracted.
That's the thing. Really, 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 really good survivors do exist, and one really good survivor can basically win a match for you if they can taunt the killer well enough into chasing them forever. Those people are so far and few between. It takes such a special kind of brain to really understand how chasing works in this game. If I had to rank myself, I have 700-ish hours in Dead by Daylight. I've played a lot. I've been Iridescent 2. I've been one pip away from Iridescent 1 back when you used to D-pip. But I'm a 4 out of 10 chaser at best. I can get some really nasty loops going once in a while, But most of the time, I'm going to panic and just end up trying to dodge swings and using speed boosts to try to get away. And I'm really good at getting away from killers now, especially. So I'm not really someone who wants to chase all the time. But when you see, back in the day at least, when you used to see a level 100 Steve, a 100th prestige Steve, you knew that you weren't going to have to see the killer at all because they were going to chase with them the entire game and you were just going to be able to get generators done. And it was fantastic. It was amazing.
Distracted enough for their team to hurry up and make progress on gens. That's when I take a page out of my dad's playbook and simply walk away.
Yes, whenever you see someone
Speaking
like that
of
as
books,
killer, you
let's
just
get some
find
clarification
the
on
person,
what
the
is
zero
and
prestige
isn't
to wipe.
toxic by taking a quick look at the game's rulebook.
The rules.
That's right. There's
None.
not one
Nope.
set of actions that everyone agrees is toxic. It changes depending on who you ask.
I think that intentionally trying to ruin someone's good time who hasn't done anything to you is toxic. I think it's really, really difficult to get around that concept. I think that if you're teabagging at people when they've been overall nice to you, which happens a lot. I can't tell you how many times I've seen survivors be douchebags to killers who are obviously letting them pull pallets on them and things. They're not trying. You can see it. You can see that they're just sort of following them around, not taking swings at them, just letting them get distance on them and then chasing them, just playing around basically. And then people teabag at them like, oh my, I'm so good, dude. You need to know where you are.
Dude, what, you hit me before I had a chance to heal up. Yeah, I know you chased and hooked someone else after I got unhooked, but I'm not fully healed yet. Oh my god, why are you guys body blocking to try to save your teammate that's on their final hook? Ugh. What the heck?
Yeah.
I got lucky and hit the 4% chance of unhooking myself and you didn't let me leave?
None of that is
Report it.
toxic.
Come on, why do you have to keep blinding me? These are rules that people get legitimately upset over.
Also, the idea of reporting someone doing anything in this game is insane. The amount of people who report people for perceived issues is so high that I don't think it's possible for the devs to look through every single report. I had a guy one time who I brought the killer to because he was clicking flashlights and running around and hiding in the basement and doing all that stuff. So I brought the killer to him, and he messaged me and said, easy report. You'll be easily banned. No problem. I sent footage to him too, which you can't do. I don't know what he's talking about. And I said, good. If you sent footage to them, then they can see you hiding in the basement for that entire match and doing absolutely nothing and trying to click flashlights at people and pull pallets down and just no response. Just people think that you're an idiot and you have no idea what's going on, and it's not me. I'm not the one. Find somebody else. Find someone else to do it. I'm a better player than you. I'll bring the killer to you, and then I'll get you killed, and then I'll probably lose that match, but it's better than you thinking that you're the top dog for all time, because you're not. You're some dude who's played this game for 30 hours and it just clicked in your brain, oh, I could sabotage my teammates. Yeah, dude. Yeah, obviously. We've all been there, but get over yourself. It's a team-based game. Play killer if you want to be a douchebag.
And there's many, many, many more. But the thing is, a killer isn't going to get punished in-game for not letting a survivor leave through the hatch. Survivors aren't going to get points taken away for being altruistic.
It's the point of the game.
Something that could amplify sour feelings after a match is the fact that you either rank up or down in each game. There's no unranked quick play.
You don't
for
rank
that
down
reason,
anymore, thank
although there
goodness.
isn't a purely competitive mode, that
I don't know if thank goodness, honestly. Maybe thank goodness, but the ranks don't mean anything. I can't stand that people play for blood points and ranks. They don't mean anything. You can win this game with base perks. You can win this game being an Ashen 4. You can be the best player in the world. None of that stuff matters and makes you any better at this game. It's so reaction-based and so thinking-based in this game that you are at the mercy of your own skill level, and I can't believe that people out here are objectively sinking the game for their team because they know they can get more blood points by staying next to the killer when he's hooking somebody.
competitiveness is still there. That also makes players take matches much more seriously. So when somebody doesn't play the way they think the game should be played, they get upset. The way you play is never going to...
He is missing such a big point of Dead by Daylight, and I find that really interesting. I don't ever have bad thoughts against killers unless they're just camping hooks and being kind of a jerk. But when someone's way better than me, I just have respect for them. You've sunk so much time into this game, or you're just really good at video games. Props to you, my guy. But I don't understand why people get mad at other players for being good at the game. It happens. That's what happens when you're in a pool of just people of different skill levels.
Appease everyone. For me personally, I'm a killer main, but I understand the pains of survivors. So I play in what I consider a tough but fair way, because it's how I prefer to play when I'm survivor.
I also
Basically,
play that way.
treat others how you want to be treated. That's good advice for life.
I'm a put someone on the hook and go look for other survivors person. That's who I am when I play killer. And I know that that's not the best meta way to play, but I'm not looking for 1,000 win streak on the internet. I don't think there's any clout in that. I don't think there's any clout to be had in this game, period. It's a goofy little game. You play it as much as you want. You either like it or you don't. That's all there is to it. I can't believe that people queue up to play a game they hate.
In general. Unless of course you're a masochist, which if you play this game, you just might be.
Yeah.
Additionally, we also have to consider the big Canadian elephant in the room here. It's always super easy to blame the developers over something you don't like because, well, they made the game. When people get upset that their opponent is using a really strong element of the game, that's not on the player. They're just using something that was given to them to use.
Totally.
If something
it's
in
like
any
using
game
quick
is
saves in
genuinely
RPGs.
too strong, that falls on the developers, and it's up to them to decide if that strong element needs to be changed and how much to change it. And when it comes to Dead by Daylight specifically, it makes players feel like they need to play a certain toxic way in order to win. That's why it's important for a player base and the development team to have a good, transparent relationship. However, the DBD developers don't exactly have the best history of being in.
I don't think they play the game very much either, but I do think that it's okay to have meta things in the game. I think that it's okay to be really good at something and use the best tools that you have. I think that's to be expected, and I think that no matter what you change, there's always going to be something that's better than everything else. That's how video games end up working. I'm terrible at flashlights. I've been playing, like I said, for 700 hours. I've gotten maybe 20 flashlight saves in my whole time playing. I just don't use them. I don't like them. I don't like that mechanic. I think that most of the time, if you get a survivor down from a killer, a lot of times you're just taking someone off generators, or you're ending up trading hooks, or they're just going to go back down, or whatever. It can work, and I've seen it work really well, especially when I'm playing killer, but it's just not something that I've invested a lot of time in getting good at. I don't think you need to. I've won plenty of games.
Their fan base's favor.
Still
I made a
playing.
video covering the game's previous controversies if you want to get a better insight to that, but the gist of it is, the game used to be super buggy and unbalanced. Every major patch was met with some sort of vitriol by a good chunk of the community. This wasn't helped by developers making PR mistakes with what they say about the game sometimes. And yet, year after year, they have asked the community to nominate them for the Labor of Love Award at the Steam Awards, which would always be met with many players laughing at their screens. Personally, I think the developers have been doing a better job at keeping in touch with what the player base wants in terms of how to make the game healthier, at least considering how it was before.
I think the idea that this game can be healthy is a joke. It's set up in a way that it will never ever be healthy. You are victims to somebody else no matter what's going on, and it's the same way with League of Legends or any of those super competitive games. If you're playing an unbalanced game, which by nature it is, it's 4v1, it's going to be unhealthy because people who are bad at the game are going to have to be in pools with people who are really good at the game, and that means that there's going to be a lot of sour feelings. It feels bad when you keep messing up over and over again, and if that happens enough times in a row, you're going to be really angry. People have no idea that they're bad at it. People think that they've been playing for 30 hours and they know everything about this game, and it's not true. It's not. If there are people who have been playing for 2,500 hours in this game, and there are, that means that there is not a chance that if you haven't been playing for at least as long as that you know as much as they do. Remember that. Remember that you're in a different place than a majority of the people you're around. I know it feels like you've been playing for a long time. You have. In any other game, you have, but not here. Not in World of Warcraft, not in RuneScape, not in MapleStory, not in League of Legends. Games where people are playing for tens of thousands of hours sometimes. You need to have respect. You need to come into it with an open mind. You need to have reverence for what's happening.
but all of those mistakes from the past still linger on and make it all the more easier to criticize them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't even play their own game, probably. They must
probably
hate
don't.
working there so much
They don't
that
have
they're
time for it. How could they?
self-sabotaging. As someone who used to be in the game development scene, I tend to give developers in general the benefit of the doubt. I don't envy them at all, especially the ones running live service games with big communities.
Yeah.
Perfect game balance, especially in Dead
Doesn't
by
exist.
Daylight's case, will always seem to elude them. Add on top of that the pressure of every single player of meeting their expectations.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong here. The devs aren't perfect and they of course mess up. We should still keep them accountable for unhealthy changes and strive to make the game better. Although,
Totally.
no matter what happens, there's no reality where everyone is satisfied. There will always be people upset over any change and the division grows further. I've seen so many. This game is Survivor.
This game is... In a live service game, there will always be changes that happen. And if you're playing Dead by Daylight, what you've decided is that no matter what changes occur, you're going to learn how to play that game season after season, update after update, patch after patch, and you're going to learn how to play it and replay it. Your favorite things will be nerfed, your least favorite things will be buffed, and you will have seasons where you're not interested at all. There is no bag of money, there is no clout, there are no bitches. You are playing a video game. If you like it, play it. If you don't, don't. But that's what the game is. It is. That's what it is. You think it's something else. You think it's one thing, and it's the other thing.
Sided, and this game is killer-sided. Comments literally right next to each other. Something that every single player needs to realize is that this
Sometimes it is
game will
killer-sided.
never be
Sometimes it is
balanced.
survivor-sided.
There are
It's
so
killer-sided
many
right
different
now.
combinations that can end up in a single match. As of this recording, there are 32 killers, 702 add-on modifiers, 234 perk powers, 41 maps, and already I give up on trying to calculate all the different possibilities that could go into a match because I'm not a math magician, okay? That's not even taking into consideration stuff like player spawn placements, totem locations, and gen regions. Simply put, there are just too many random factors for Dead by Daylight to be considered a serious competitive
slug
game.
race.
And here's a hot pocket take. This is a party game.
I love to pick
so
someone
why
up.
aren't people having as much fun as they should? Everything I've talked about so far, the tribalism, the imaginary
They made it
rulebook,
so
the balancing
competitive.
issues, the overly competitive nature,
People
all
sweat,
of that
man.
put together is the perfect recipe for toxicity. And all of that is unloaded after the match. You have a better chance of not being exposed to toxicity if you eat gas station sushi than you do if you go into the endgame chat.
Yeah. You play... If you watch Skirms play, you'll see the level of skill that you can reach in this game. And if you play, you'll know how different you are from that. And so there's no reason to be toxic. There's just not.
The thing about talking with another person online is that everyone seems to get a keyboard courage buff. They say stuff they probably wouldn't say to someone in real life because it's easy to forget that on the other side of those pixels, there's another person. I don't think, in the history of ever, anybody has under any circumstances told someone else to off themselves because they were legitimately upset that they lost at a game of rock, paper, scissors. That's not normal.
No.
Like I get-
Well, you invest so much time. If you queue into a match and you've played really hard, you've probably spent 20, 25 minutes and you've had so many close calls and you're so amped up about the possibility of you escaping. And then when it doesn't happen, it's heartbreaking sometimes and you're looking for anyone to blame but yourself. I found the best tactic for keeping me not angry is to go back and think of what I could have done differently. And most of the time I can see a dozen things. We had a match somewhat recently where Tiff got slugged right at the end and she was trying to escape, and there were so many moments that we could have played it just a little bit differently and we probably would have got out, but it just didn't turn out that way. I was injured, the other person was injured, there was one healthy person who was just trying to get out. It was a whole bunch, it was a mess, and there were definitely things that we could have done. They were a stealth killer. I didn't see them coming. I didn't get out in front of them initially the way that I should have. Tiff was on the gate. Just a whole bunch of things went wrong, and it was our fault. The killer was just trying to get kills, as their name implies, and I didn't make the right decisions in those moments. That's all it was.
Get it, losing sucks, but at least I could say I've never sent a death threat to a streamer over a loss. By the way, there's a button right there to
I've never
hide chat.
sent a death
Very
threat
useful.
either, but I have received some messages and sent some messages back that have made them never talk to me again. I'm I never get messages from people who I feel like, oh, I really screwed up, because usually I message those people and I go, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to pull that pallet down in front of you. I didn't know you were behind me. That was an accident. I'm sorry. But it's always somebody who's playing like a jerk, and then and then when they die, because they're basically running around waving a neon sign that says, hey, I'm a survivor, I'm right here, they blame me for it. Those are the people that
every
you tell
single
about
time
themselves.
I see those types of toxic messages, I genuinely feel bad. But not in the way they want me to feel. I feel bad for them. I really do, because I think that everyone is capable of more than that. I luckily have pretty thick skin, but I know that others don't. I've seen the clips. I've heard about times someone like that attacks a player that's just trying to have fun, and it ruins their whole day. It's really sad, because what I see there is someone lashing out. They have other stuff going on in their lives.
I will occasionally send a message that just says something along the lines of, just so you know, the reason that you got killed, or the reason that we all died at the end, is because you were sprinting everywhere. I'm not angry, but it just, for the future reference, you left a trail of breadcrumbs and it brought them to us, that kind of thing.
And it's easier
sometimes
to
I think
lash
people
out over
genuinely
something
don't
as
know.
inconsequential
There's so
as
much
this
stuff in this game,
than
and
it
people
is
who
to
have
deal
never
with
played
the
Killer would have
problems
no
that
idea
they're
how
having.
obvious
Let
scratch
alone than
marks
it
are.
is for them to admit that they didn't play well. They don't improve themselves because it's
Totally.
not their fault. The other side cheated somehow. That's why some players play a certain way, such as when killers say they tunnel and camp because
I wish they wouldn't have left or put bots in the game when you disconnect. I wish they would have kept it just a DC, because a bot is basically useless anyways, and nowadays the killer doesn't really register of, oh, they're down a teammate. And I miss the days when someone would disconnect out of pettiness, and then the killer would at least lighten up a little bit. That was better.
they need to, because that's the only way they can win. I don't tunnel or camp, and yet I do pretty well for myself. Does
Yeah, I
that
don't
mean I'm
either.
the top 1% of the 1% then?
What is going on over there?
That sort of toxicity doesn't stop when they win either. Sore winners are a thing too.
Totally.
They teabag like their life depends on it at the exit gate, and they hit you on the hook like you
Never
owe them
would I
money.
ever.
Then they go into chat and type easy, even though it's their
Dude, hitting you on the hook is the goofiest thing. I'd never feel more like I've won than when you hit me when you put me on a hook.
first win in a 3-hour play session. Then there's the truly toxic type of gaming, where the goal is no longer to just win the game.
Yeah.
You got players sandbagging their teammates and snitching to the killer on where they're hiding. Before this was fixed, pinhead players were able to hold the entire game.
There are moments, though, where if you don't sell out your teammate, your whole team will be killed because that teammate is trying to get you all killed. That's a
hostage
thing.
by standing on top of his box, preventing survivors from solving it and thus triggering a chain hunt. Pig used to also be able to stand in front of key cages to prevent survivors from escaping their head trap. A very common toxic
Pig is one of my least
playstyle
favorite
is
killers
slugging.
whenever they're
If you
good
don't
at
know
it.
what slugging is, it's when a player and then they all over the... Oh, sorry, I was reading the wrong definition. I was on Urban Dictionary. Slugging is when the killer knocks down survivors and leaves them to bleed out instead of hooking them, which takes 4 minutes per survivor. Toxic players are more tempted to do this,
That
along
is
with
really,
tunneling
really
and face
frustrating.
camping when they see
But there are definitely perks to get around that too. What's the Zarina Kassir perk now that people are using to get around slugging and all that? I think it got nerfed recently. They were using that in Buckle Up. It is really frustrating, but still, if you've gotten downed by the killer, if it's on your first hook, then that's really frustrating. I don't see that very much, though. But if you've gotten down by the killer 2 times and they're trying to get somebody before they can get out, they don't want them to get the hatch or whatever, that's a strat. I think it's kind of a rude strat, but it's a strat, and I can't be that mad at someone for trying to get a dub.
TV in someone's name. They have a bigger audience for their trolling now, and they take that as their time to shine.
Yeah.
I've had people try to do this to me too, but unfortunately for them, I'm built
Usually
different, and I
TTV
just
means
switch
that you're
what's
about
on
to
the
play
screen to
terribly,
talk
though.
with chat.
Oh my god.
Then there are those whose goals are beyond our comprehension, where they want nothing more than for survivors to suffer. I remember seeing this comment somewhere about how this happened to someone and their team. The killer was a streamer, so the commenter went into their channel. They were the only viewer there. They go into the VOD to see what the streamer was saying during the match, and here's the thing that really stuck with
Saying
me.
nothing.
The streamer didn't say a single word that entire match.
Just
they
watching
slugged
them.
everyone and, with an absolutely blank
Actual serial
expression,
killers.
just watched as the whole team bled out. That sort of mentality is not normal, and it is definitely not healthy. All of that in-game
I've met people like that before. I used to play with a guy who would often reference someone that we knew in real life who would probably play that way. And I don't know what satisfaction they're getting out of it, but man, it's terrifying. I mean, I'm wasting so much time. If that happens to me at this point, I'll just disconnect. I'll take the minute ban or whatever it is. I don't mind.
toxicity is so strong that it can't be contained to only inside the game. It manifests into pessimism. Take a look at any official DBD post, or rather, any DBD post at all. I can almost guarantee that there will be someone wanting to start some sort of argument with a charged comment, especially when the post relates to patch notes.
I make posts on the DBD Reddit sometimes of just being like, you are the problem. If you are in here complaining, you are the problem. If you are in here getting angry about just the game, you're the problem. If you don't like the game, don't play it. But that's what the game is. It's a rage simulator. That's what you're signing up for. If you don't understand that, try to understand that now and then decide whether or not you want to keep playing. It's okay to not play this game. It's not for everybody. It's definitely not for everybody. But it's insane to me that people just play something that absolutely drives them to the point of going online and typing super hard on Reddit.
Or upcoming changes. Trust me, as someone who covers that, I've seen a lot of these. And when it comes to new characters or perks, they're so easy to dismiss them.
That's what they do.
It's overpowered and unfair, and this just proves how killer-sided the devs are. Out of curiosity, I took a look at their profile, and sure enough, right there in their bio, it says that they play on PlayStation. The reason that says a lot is because when there's new content, that stuff is available early to try out in the playtest build, which is essentially the game's beta version for the new changes. However, that's only available on PC. That means this person definitely did not come to that conclusion based on their own experience. They were just predisposed to thinking the update was going to be bad.
I play on PlayStation a lot. I also play on PC, but I primarily play on PlayStation. I don't know. I've never seen a killer be that OP. A lot of times when they come out, a lot of people play them, and so you'll run into really good killers who are playing new killers, and so you feel like they're OP. But after time goes on, a couple days, you learn what that killer does. I've never seen a killer be super OP. When Freddy was first around, he was really, really tough to play. But I have problems with killers all the time anyway. Shock Doctor I still have a problem with. Clown I still have a problem with. I'm not really... I don't like the counter plays that they have, so I don't do them. I don't like pre-pulling pallets. I don't like using short loops and things. I like playing the way that I play, and they really lampoon my play style. But it doesn't mean the killer's overpowered. I just know that when I run into a Shock Doctor, if they're any good, I'm probably going to lose.
Because their way of thinking in relation to the game is that they'll still have a bad time, and now they're about to have an even worse time. For someone like that, that could be the last straw
playing the
for them.
game.
They comment that that's it.
If you
They're
don't
done.
enjoy it,
the game
stop
is
playing.
dying, and they're
I've quit
leaving.
before.
Maybe it's for the best for them. However, I've also seen people who no longer play the game, but are still upset from when they left that they'll actually come into my comments and argue back and forth with people on why the game sucks. Why they suck for still
The
playing.
game does suck. I will fight on that hill until the end. The game sucks. Some people are really good at it. Some people really like it. I still like it. The game sucks. It's built to be unfair. And oh, I don't know. Maybe it's super unfair of me to say that it sucks, but it's built to be unfair. And I don't know. The game isn't sold to people that way. You see what I'm saying? That's why I think it sucks, because it brings people in under false pretenses, but it's this totally other thing. I made a comment on a post one time. I said, you know, you guys got to learn that this game is built for the nonsense that you're complaining about. It's always going to be like that. That's the problem. And someone said, just because the bathroom stinks doesn't mean we can't open a window. And I said, yeah, man, you're not opening a window. You're pulling turds out of the toilet and dissecting them. That's what you're doing. There's problems. There's always going to be problems. It's just what it is.
And that they should leave too. They don't want them to have the type of fun that they don't have anymore. Then there's people who just absolutely hate the game. They hate the devs, they hate the community, they hate the other side, they hate their teammates, and yet they still play it. They keep going back to it even though it agitates them so much. Every single factor I've talked about so far has caused them to be so unhappy whenever
I have people who bring me back in. That's my problem.
they play. It's quite literally almost an abusive relationship. Now, take everything that's been brought up and think for a second. If you saw your friends play Dead by Daylight and they asked you to play and you look up stuff about it and all of this is what you learn, would you still be interested in playing? That's without even mentioning the high barrier of entry for new players when it comes to just learning how to play. Where you
See, I think that he brings up a really good point. I think a lot of people will always continue to play Dead by Daylight. It's really dirt cheap. It's been given out for free plenty of times. It's a goofy little fun game. My first 20 hours of this game was nothing but joy. I had a blast. It was so fun screaming with my friends every time the killer snuck up on us. I remember I was playing with three of my friends in real life, and we were playing against a Michael Myers, and this is 2017, something like that. It had come out on PlayStation Plus for free. We had all gotten it. We were all playing it together, and we were all just in a little snake, just following each other, trying to find a generator on the swamp. And we see Michael, and he just turns to us and points the knife at us, and we all just broke apart screaming. It was so good. It was so much fun. I think people will always be brought in that way. Do I think that they'll always stick around? Probably not. And they'll leave going, oh, that game's broken, that game's so dumb, without realizing that that's kind of the point of it. I don't think it's meant to be a super competitive game. There's no ranked mode in it. They refuse to put one in. People have been asking for it forever, and that's because it's not meant to be a hyper-competitive esport. It's not set up that way.
You can put 50 hours into the game and still be considered new. All of that discourages potential players and makes it harder for the game to grow. There's obviously a lot of ideas that the developers can implement to make this problem better, but that's really out of our control right now, so what can we do about this?
LOL, nothing.
When you're just not having a good time, even at your lowest low, you shouldn't actively try to bring others down to your level.
Totally
Instead
not.
of typing out your frustrations in the chat, just leave.
Yeah.
Remember that it's just a game.
Give up,
Games are meant to be fun. Once you start thinking of it as
115.4
anything
hours.
more than that,
So he's about
once
where
you
I
start
am.
taking it really
Or
seriously,
at least he was
that's a slippery
10
slope
months
to
ago.
having your day ruined. That's happened to me too, don't worry. Get some water, get some food,
It's
do
fine.
some stretches, look at cat videos,
It's fine.
or maybe do the seemingly impossible and take a deep breath and just touch some grass.
Listen, I love
At the
Dead
end
by
of the
Daylight.
day, it'll be okay, because I realize that it could be a lot worse.
Last DVD. I'm gonna follow this guy. I don't follow many Dead by Daylight creators. It's a great game. It really is. I do like it. It frustrates the ever living out of me, but I will still get urges to play it no matter what. I mean, I'll take long breaks from it, and I'll start feeling okay. I want to play some Dead by Daylight. Tiff will play it for the rest of her life, obviously. So I'm sort of along for that ride. But I mean, it's got its problems. There's no way to get around that. And I think that a lot of the problem is the player base, that people are so angry all the time, and the game is kind of busted. So, like, everyone's probably having a bad time. Maybe don't take it out on other people. But it's a good video. Go give it a like.